looking last week at this issue of Hashem creating the world with the letter Beis and not with Aleph. You remember this?
Yeah.
I don't have all the pages for some
At the
reason.
bottom of Men's
Right.
What do you mean you don't have all the pages?
But I didn't bring everything.
Well, we have them, what do you want?
No, it's not.
It's not, there's 140 here, it's not 140.
So I didn't add very much. I added in the footnote. There's footnote 20 became much longer. And so we started out with this idea that when they came into Eretz Yisrael, so they had this whole event in Shechem where they stood half on one mountain and half on the other, and the Levim stood in the middle in the city itself, and they built a covenant. They made a covenant. And the covenant was these 11 statements that Arul, cursed is a person who does this. The most important one is probably if he makes an idol and he sequesters it, he puts it in hiding, he keeps it at home where nobody sees it. So why did they do this? Because Hashem told them that anything that would be hidden from the public is not the public's responsibility. So if somebody does an Avera at home and nobody knows about it, so Hashem won't come to us and punish us.
It applies today.
Okay, also, if somebody does something and nobody knows about it, so it's between him and Hashem.
Oh.
So they can't come to us and say, why didn't you prevent him?
No,
We can't prevent somebody from...
it didn't.
So this whole idea of the covenant in Shechem was that they wanted to set up call it an intervention in the private individual's life. They wanted there to be certain limits even on the individual in his private affairs. So the way to do this was to get everybody to agree that anybody who would do these things that would not be known to the public, but they would do them personally, they would be cursed. And everybody accepted the curse upon themselves. So in a certain sense, this was a way of getting around the fact that the public is not responsible for everything, and yet there are certain types of behavior that we don't want people to feel that because the public won't get involved, that they're a free-for-all. You can do anything you want. Because that's what happens a lot of times. The whole reason people want privacy is because really they want to do whatever they want. They want nobody to know. And when they're in their inner chamber, they do whatever they want, and they can mamish be avodah zarah also. That was the main one. But other things as well, so things that have to do with marital relations and with conduct with other people that they don't know that you did what you did. And so this was a way of limiting the individual so that there wouldn't be a feeling that everything is hefker, that everything is permissible if you're in your private space. So that was the general idea behind this covenant.
Of these curses?
These curses. Because there was because we can't le'ekuf, we can't we don't have the jurisdiction to get into a person's mind. And it would be improper also, but if the person says about himself that if I make an idol and I put it in my private chamber and I worship it, then I'll be cursed. So the individual agreed already.
That's what I read about the one who collected on Shabbos.
And the
It said
Mikoshesh.
he meant well,
Yeah.
and if he would have been judged from above, he would have been alright. But we don't have to go into
But then he
his
was
mind
found.
that
Yeah.
his intentions
Ken,
were
in
good.
general, right.
So he was judged from below, and then he was.
So, what was it? still, the question becomes, the first thing that you do when you come into Eretz Yisrael is you make 11 curses. It's like very strange. What kind of an opening is that to coming into the Holy Land? It's
That
like
was after Yericho? After they captured?
Yeah. No, it's the first thing they did. Even before you.
Oh,
The very first thing.
Oh, you need a, right, I have to give you.
It's a very strange thing to do. So what we said last time, and we left this sort of open, is that on the one hand, what this Aleph did, what these Arurim that start with the letter Aleph did, is they cleared the air from the idolatry of the Canaanites. The idea being, again, that the air that penetrates into the individual's mind would now be cleared, because it would be like a curse not to entertain these ideas in your head. But this is still, it's not good enough. There still has to be more of an explanation here. Why not start with a blessing? So the answer was, and we started to give it, was that for the same reason that the Torah couldn't start with an Aleph. Torah starts with a Bet. Because in a certain sense, if it would have started with the Aleph, there would be no chance or no ability to judge the wicked.
it's true, it's din.
The Aleph would allow wickedness to prevail. It would allow evil to take a stronghold and to never be uprooted.
And why is that?
Why is that? Because the Aleph starts with a rule. That's the idea here.
It starts with a what?
A rule. The word arul, curse, starts with the letter Aleph.
But
And
that's
again,
not Adibro.
but and then there's the question. But the Ten Commandments, Hashem, when Hashem started giving the Torah, he also started with an Aleph. And in fact, that was the in exchange that the Aleph wasn't used to start again. So these are all, of course, parables. They're trying to say something. So the question is, what are they trying to say? Why can't you start creating the world with an Aleph? But why is it okay to start the Torah with an Aleph? And why is it okay not just to start the Torah with an Aleph, but to even start the entrance into the Eretz Yisrael with that Aleph that you're most afraid of, which is Aru, of curse? What's going on here? What does each one represent? And what do the Aleph and Bet here represent? So for us, what we've been discussing so far is that Aleph and Bet, they're emunah and bitachon. They're faith and confidence. So what it's saying here is that you can't start creating the world with faith. You can't create the world with faith. Yeah, it's very strange. Why? So Reb Hillel of Parach, he explains this, and this is the long note here, number 20. He says, if the world would have been created with the letter Aleph, evil would forever have a hold, and the wicked would rule indeterminately. Because what does faith mean? What did we say that faith meant?
It's not action.
It's that everything's good. What does it mean everything's good? It's non-judgmental. And the first Aleph, like, you have to understand that it has two sides to it. On the one hand, it's a very good space to be in if you want to clear the air. If you want to open up, sort of like reset your life. So if I want to reset everything, so being non-judgmental and feeling that all is Hashem, everything is Hashem, and Hashem is only good. So on the inside and the outside, and everything is like nothing before Him. So it's all good, in and out and around and wherever you look. So that's very good for resetting, but it's not a good way to get rid of evil.
There's no din.
Good. There's no judgment.
People, it's not good.
Why? When we do this, it's important to know that when you do this meditation, which is very, very powerful, you don't come and you say, maybe this will be, maybe I'm good. You're completely like that. There's no judgment on my past. There's no judgment on my future.
New beginning.
It's a feeling that
Blank page.
it's like everything's fine. Whatever happens is fine. Is it good that Avram won't have a son? Apparently, it's very bad, because if he doesn't have a son, how's there going to be a Jewish people? How's Hashem's plan going to unfold? Let's say not plan. Let's say even His presence. Who will teach the world that there's Hashem? So it's not a good thing. And yet that's exactly where we're going with Emunah. Emunah is to cleanse out everything, to purge everything. So even if you're a terrible person, you have to know how to do this. Because this is like how to begin again, how to reset. So even if mamish, you've done the worst of errors, it doesn't matter. You have to be able to believe in Hashem. The Hashem is all good. That I can't really destroy the world.
Tshuva.
It's not even tshuva yet. It's just to feel that everything is Hashem. It's not me.
So that's Emunah doesn't hurt you.
Okay. But because of that, it's a double-edged sword. You can't run a world. You can't build a world with it. Say it another way. That this is very common with teenagers. That everybody says you have to have faith. You have to tell them you have faith in them, and so on and so forth all the time. That's very good, but you can't build a personality that way. Because if I only have faith in you, then everything you do is fine. Whether you do this, you do that, you don't do anything at all, everything's fine. That's not guidance. That's not how you build a world. So on the one hand, you have to have that. Right? Every time they fall, say, "Oh, I have faith in you. The next time will be better," or even, "I just love you," even without any conditions. It says that if Hashem, when He created the world with the sovev, it started out as sovev, theoretically. So there was no difference between the evil, the wicked people, and the tzaddikim. How does the Torah say that? The Chazal say it on. That Hashem created the light. There was darkness. And then Hashem created light. And then He separated between light and darkness. So the Chazal say, so now there's a light and there's darkness, and you haven't given us your preference, you haven't said which one you prefer. So the darkness is the acts of the wicked, and the light is the acts of the tzaddikim. And which one do you want? There's no difference. They coexist. Very nice. You just separate them, but they coexist. There's no statement here that I prefer this, or there's no statement of will. There's no statement of intent. So that's good. That's how you begin to create something. That's how you start. But you can't really say that. You can't say, "I have no intent. I have no will. I have no direction." You can't say that. You have to come from that place. The person feels that. I'm saying, when you think about, again, a relationship with a child, or with somebody else that you're responsible for. So, and the substrate, there has to be this feeling that I have faith. Okay? However it is, it's fine. It's all good. But that's not how you educate. That's not how you actually create the world of this person that you want to help. You can listen in the sense of having faith, but then when you have to say something, it has to have some purpose. It has to have some intent. It has to give some direction. So what he's saying is that if Hashem would have created the world with the Aleph, and the Aleph sees everything as equal, so the wicked and the good would be the same. The Aleph is what's called the Sovev, the light that surrounds all worlds. So one of the big mistakes, again, in thinking always by people, is they say, lightning's not going to strike you if you do so and so. Of course it's not. Because your existence is not predicated on your actions, it's predicated on Hashem's surrounding light. And that doesn't see a difference. As far as it's concerned, good and evil are equal. It allows both of them to exist equally. It sees everything as being equal. That's the nature of the Sovev. That's how it is. So this Balata here doesn't care if I'm a tzaddik or whether I'm the most wicked person in the world. It'll hold me the same way. The laws of physics don't care, because they all come from the Sovev. They don't see that difference. They're what allow reality to exist in the first place. Aye, but if that's how you're going to tell the story, we're in trouble. If there's no judgment right away, and it has to be a particular type of judgment, but there's no direction, no preference given right away about what I created the world for, so the person might come away with the wrong impression that the world was created just for its own sake. It has no meaning. That's like the scientific picture.
But
Because-
Hashem took the light and separated from tzaddikim. He made two different lights. Like.
He separated them, but he doesn't say, I want this more than I want that. He has both now. He didn't say, okay, in the end I want the light, I don't want the darkness. When did he say something like that? So the Chazal say, when he finally said, Vayerev, Vayiboker, Yom Echad, that in the end it's called Yom, that it's called light, revelation. So here he's, the first time he's giving his preference. That in the end what I wanted was light. Because the whole thing, evil and good, is all going to be named after the good. So that's what I really want. So first of all, to understand that the substrate has to suffer everything. It has to allow everything to exist. So the basic existence of the world will never judge you. It's like a mistaken thinking, that if I think that the laws of physics will change, whether I'm good or evil, unfortunately that doesn't work. Because the laws of physics are from the Sovev. They equalize, they're equal before everybody. Everybody's equal before them. The only question they care is how much mass you have, how fast you are. That's what they care. They don't give any kind of judgments about your morality and your character and how you act, and they don't care. So if Hashem would have created the world with the Aleph, that would have been the overriding purpose of creation. It's like science sees it. Science says there's no moral judgment in nature. Nature doesn't judge you whether you act like this or act like that. It doesn't care. It's all the same. Shlomo Melech says the same thing. Mikre, when you talk about mikre echad yikre et tzaddik v'et rasha. When it comes to circumstances, when it comes to the way nature works, it's all the same whether you're a tzaddik or rasha. It's exactly the same. So if you would come to, if Hashem would have told us about the creation of the universe, starting with the letter Aleph, that would have become the highest that we can come to. That's the highest, meaning even in nature, you would always remain at a level where everything is equal. But he doesn't want that. He wants nature to reveal something. He says, even nature I wanted to reveal something. Even though it's not, you look at physics, you can't see it. It's not there. But I'm telling you that when I created the world, I had a purpose. What was the purpose? The bet. And what does the bet do? The bet is to bring blessing into the world. That's why I created the world, really. So even though there's no preference, like it's called that there's parity. Left is the same as right. They're exactly the same. They're just opposites. But you can't say that nature prefers this or that. So says Hashem, no. I'm breaking parity. And truth is that we know today that in nature there is a preference. It's very strange. It was thought for a long, long time that there had to be parity. Well, we know that we've always known that there's a preference for the future as opposed to the past. Because we know that time only moves forward for whatever strange reason. If there was no difference, it should also move backwards. There should be no difference between the two.
It's not yin and yang, in other words.
No, it's not equal. Or I don't know what yin and yang really means. Okay. There's no preference. Okay.
What's parity? What's the word parity?
Parity means the left and right are exactly the same. There's no difference between the two. So if the aleph, if you want a symbol, in the Jewish symbol for the Tao, so that's the aleph. It looks even the same. So you have a line, one on top, one on the bottom, and they're just opposite from one another, and they turn around. That's how you understand the aleph. That's the symbolism, possible symbolism behind it.
Olive is all over the place. Seems
There
like
is polarity.
people want olive.
Okay, no, there is a left and a right, but they're equal.
There are-
They're distinct. That's what we said. Hashem separated the darkness from the light. They're different. But there's no preference to which one I want. I don't care. And in fact, you probably come to a theory that would say the best thing is to balance them. Since it doesn't matter, so have equal parts of both.
Well, that's the teaching of the Tao, is no preferences.
Right. There's no preferences. There's no commitments also. Nothing. It's all the same. It's all the same. So if the Torah would have described creation starting with an aleph, that would have been the conclusion.
But that's what the Greek, when they
And the Greek,
translated,
they start with Elohim.
yes, with the
Yeah,
aleph.
we'll see
Because that
what
is
to do with it.
plus of-
So what did Hashem do? He said, no, even in nature, I'm telling you the story in such a way that you'll know that even in nature, I concealed an inner intent. There's an inner intent even in nature. What is it? And that's why I start with the bet and not with the aleph. That there's no parity. They're not equal left and right. I said the amazing thing is today in science we know that they're just not equal. It's an amazing thing. Nature has a preference. This was only discovered, 60 years ago, 50
What
years
is
ago.
the preference?
That it was discovered that certain reactions between particles will always look like they happen either on the left or on the right, but they can't happen. Like if you put them in a mirror, you won't see a mirror image of it. You'll see the same thing replicated. I think there it was the left side, but it doesn't matter because it's convention. You could say, but the point is that nature prefers this one and won't let the other side happen. There's stuff like that also we know today with molecules. For instance, there's I can't remember the name. There's two types of sugar. You can do glucose where it's a right-handed molecule. They're called chromatics, I think, or something like that. There's no reason really for it. I don't know. I don't remember what it's called. And you can do the same molecule where it's just a flip image. It's just like the right side. What's the difference between them? They both taste the same. They're both sweet. The taste buds feel them the same, but the body doesn't process the other one. If I'm not mistaken, it's not used because of some strange reason. But it was discovered like about 40, 50 years ago already that the reverse picture of the molecule isn't processed by the body, and so it just comes out. So you could eat as much sugar as you want, and it's not absorbed. So all these molecules, by the way, there's always this question with vitamins. When they make vitamins, it's very hard to tell the difference. But the really good vitamins are the ones that do analyze which side it came out. Whether it came out on the side that works or the side that's inert. It doesn't do anything. So I'm not very knowledgeable about this, but you see that there's a difference between them. That like we prefer one or the other. Nature doesn't care for us. But with the particles, it was shown that even in basic nuclear reactions, particle reactions, nature will only let one side happen, won't let the other happen at all. So it's a strange thing. So we've discovered that it's not what you might have thought. You might have thought that it's all the same. It doesn't matter. There's parity. So today, if we want, there's the book that Rav Ginsburg has in the lectures on modern physics. There's a whole chapter on parity there. So he gives all kinds of different directions and how this has been solved, and how, at first they thought there had to be parity between left and right. Then they said no, it's parity with time, and then they added, it's called CPT symmetry today, that if you take more than one just thing, you take time and parity and, I don't remember what the C is, do you remember what it is? I don't know. You take all three of them, then then it's all the same. But if you take just one thing, you'll see that there's a difference between left and right, or between future and past. Yeah. So this also exists in the person, because initially people want to feel that everything is okay, and you need that. When you're purging, you mamish need that. You need to go back to that state. But if you stay in that state, if you try to create your world afterwards based on that, then your world will just be meaningless. Everything will be the same. There will be no difference. There will be no motivation for anything. So Hashem says, when I create the world, when I tell you about the creation of the world, I'm going to tell you that there's a blessing concealed inside. And that's why I start with the bet and not with the aleph, to tell you that bet is the first letter of blessing. And blessing means that if you act to bring blessing into the world, you will discover that the world is based on blessing. But if you don't do that, then it'll look like it's all equal. It's all the same. It doesn't matter what you do. You follow? If you act in a certain way, you'll uncover the hidden secret of reality, which is that it has goodness sealed into it. Tuvei ganiz begavei. That the goodness is inside. It's just concealed.
It's mitzvot v'chataim.
Okay. So if you bring blessing into the world, you'll suddenly see that the world reacts to you.
The word or Hashem?
No, the world, reality itself. Because Hashem, He says, I created it really with a bet in order to imprint the goodness inside, and that this goodness would only be revealed based on your actions. So if you treat it like it's all equal, the world will look like it's all equal. Everything is the same. Doesn't matter what you do. But I want you, he says to the Jewish people, I want you to learn how to bring blessing down. And you'll see that when you bring blessing down, the world will react to you with goodness also.
It creates a positive energy.
Okay. It's like there's energy waiting to be unleashed, and it's unleashed by how you act. Okay.
It's even the shape. I mean, Aleph is very open and exposed. But the shape of B is very, it holds. It can hold something. It's like almost like a container.
Right.
Aleph is all open.
Yes, it's kind of yes. It's more
Interesting.
open shape.
So still the bed has one side that's open. So what is it saying? That one side that's open, we learned this a long time ago, but really what it means is that even if you act in a wicked way, there's one side that's open, meaning it will still look to you like everything's equal. And if you decide that you want to act however you want, without any regard for whether it's good or evil, so there's one side of the bet, even one side of the bet, it was left open, the north side it's called, and that's where the Yetzer Hara takes a hold. What does the Yetzer Hara want? It says everything is mikre. Everything is by chance. Like we said, Shlomo HaMelech says this, Ki mikre echad yikre et hatzadik ve'et harasha. When you look at the world from a rational point of view, there's no difference if you act good or if you act wickedly. It's all the same. So even in the bet, Hashem leaves one face of the bet open to get to, so that there would be free will. Otherwise, if it was so clear that only when you do good do you get good out of the world, so then there would be the clear bias. Everybody would figure it out. So it says, no, there has to be something that it looks, one side of the bet is still open, to show you that, no, it's still very close to like the Aleph. Like everything still seems unbiased and equal, and doesn't matter what you do. Who will close that side of the bet? The Mashiach, who says, that's Lemarbeh Misra. That he will close that left side, the north side, face of the bet, and then it will become clear that goodness only comes out of reality when you act with goodness. And so in his time, at some level, there will be less and less of what we call free will or free choice. The free choice that we are aware of, that's given to us because of the ability to do something negative, and that not having any kind of consequence, will slowly diminish. It'll become more and more clear that to do something negative causes the world to react to you in a negative way. Why Mem? Where did this come from? So the secret of this whole thing is that before Hashem created the world, the goodness that He dropped into the world are 13 letters Mem, final Mems. It's a big deal in Kabbalah, not the Kabbalah of the Arizal. The Arizal even didn't talk about it. It's something that's even before the Arizal. It's 13 letters of Mem, final Mems that are in reality, and they're like treasure troves of goodness.
Where are they? Does it mean they're
Reality or
In reality. In reality.
And where?
Where do we see them? Where did they learn this from? I don't know.
They're different from each other, but they're not. You're not talking about them being in Torah.
They are definitely the root of the 13 principles of mercy.
Yeah.
That's why 13 of them. But exactly what are they and how are they, we don't know. But again, it's like an image that to really get goodness out of reality, you have to close that final face of the bit. And bet, on the one hand, what does bet mean? It's very paradoxical, because on the one hand, bet is like there's two options. That's what bet means. There's two. Because you can do either one. So it's like free will. When you close it, you're like saying, no, this is a closed system, and there's only one way to get goodness out of it. So in that sense, He will take away the free will that we have now. There's a different type of free will also. But it'll be clear to everybody that if you want your life to be good, you have to act good. There won't be any other way. And if somebody tries to do something negative, it'll be hit so strongly by the world. The world will. So it's a little bit of that. I don't know if it's true or not. That's one thought that comes to mind, is shaming. Shaming is still can be something very negative, but the idea that the whole idea that you can do something negative and the world will react is like taking away your private space. That everybody will know that you did something negative. So if everybody decides you did something negative and they shame you, it's like suddenly you can't act in a negative way. You're being mechanecht, you're getting an education just by acting in a certain way and seeing the consequences from everybody around you.
Positive reinforcement.
Okay. It's either positive or negative reinforcement, and you can't run away from it. It's like all over. And then in China they do this already. Because China, they're crazy. It's a totalitarian communism. With the mask of being like a free enterprise economy. They call it state communism now. Like Israel. So, yeah, very similar. The country, the state will determine what you're allowed to do and what you're not. You want to open a business, so it's not like in America. You go to the registrar, And you sign a few papers, and that's it. The next day you have a business. In Israel, to have a business takes years. Takes years until you're approved, and they can cut you down on many stages along the way. You did this wrong, you did that wrong. Just to fill out the papers and to get them approved takes a half a year. It's impossible. They do that for a reason, because they want to stop certain people from doing whatever they want. In any case, so in China they have now, at least I don't know enough about China, but this is what I've read, that their Facebook, their version of Facebook, whatever it's called, does give you an actual social meter, like how you're, like it's not just likes or the opposite. People actually rate you. So when you come to somewhere and you have to show them your profile, so it has a rating, what kind of a person you are.
What is it based on?
Other people's reactions to what you wrote, to what you posted, to how you acted. Uber has that with the drivers, right? After you finish with an Uber, so it asks you to rate them. So that doesn't make sense. Somebody gave you a service. So here it's just you're just alive. And there was an episode of something called Black Mirror. Whoever sees that stuff, I usually read the synopsis. and it takes too long to watch these things, and they're also not sneistic a lot of times. But in Wikipedia today, you can get a very, very good, one-page summary of chapters of a TV series. There's a TV series. It's English. It's called Black Mirror, and it's like a social criticism type of thing. But they do half science fiction, but it's very close to what we have now. So they have they had a whole episode based on this thing in China, where everybody has a rating, and the rating is not just it's not just on your phone. It's like every time you hold up your phone to somebody's face, it scans it and it gives you right away their ratings. It's from 0 to 5. If you're above,
That would make shidduchim easy,
yeah,
right?
so if you have anything under 4.5, they won't let you on a flight because you're not. Who wants to sit next to the person who's a 4.4? And then they start having all these. Society begins to.
sees you.
Oh my gosh.
Especially under 3.5.
Yeah, it's not much like that. So it's a very, very strong idea, but
It's also biased, though.
that's the argument is the guy who has a 3.5 says it's wise. The guy who has a 5 says it's exactly indicative of who I am. So I don't know if this is but again, it's it's very cruel. In that sense, we don't like this idea that reality has a preference. If reality really has a preference, we're in trouble.
But I keep thinking about when big catastrophes happen in America, like if there's a big flood, and people say, oh, well, it's because they're doing so many things wrong, America's going down, and Hashem's trying to tell them by striking them down
We call
with
it
a big
an act
flood
of
and all
God.
that. Is that kind of like Hashem is making a commentary on how the people are acting, good or evil? I mean, is there something to
No,
that?
because it happens.
So the Rebbe has a sikha on these things. We talked about it once. It says that because of certain averas, there is an earthquake. Because of certain averas, there's a flooding. And he says it's not that the averas themselves cause the natural disaster. He says that the natural disaster is caused by nature. Nature has its own rule, has its own geological whatever rules that cause from time to time there to be an earthquake, and in certain places it's quite random, but there's some reason behind it. And if you have an avera, then you're caught in it.
Oh,
Then Hashem uses that event in order to judge certain people, but not that what they did caused the earthquake.
well, it's written though in the.
But is the person, like the person that gets caught in the earthquake, is Hashem, and they say they live, is Hashem giving them a wake-up call?
Yeah.
But
Okay?
You don't see, it can take 50 years before you get kind of think about and say,
Right,
oh, maybe
sure.
those two events were related. Hashem does it in such a sneaky way. It's hard for us to get.
I don't know,
this.
everything in life you can say is sneaky and you can say is a wake-up call.
There's a wake-up call.
It just depends on your outlook. I mean, small things like I walked into this, off the pavement, and suddenly a bus came by, and last second I got out of the way. So what's going on? The bus doesn't care about me. The driver doesn't care about me. Doesn't know me from Adam. So the fact that I was saved, I have to think, well, what does Hashem want from me? I don't have to wait for an earthquake. Everything that happens to me can be a wake-up
Right, I
call.
think
You
what
just
you-
have to hop it. You just
So-
have
We
to
need
realize.
God to let our consciousness rise so that we can get it
Good,
faster.
good, good.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
That's what has to happen.
So the person
Right.
who talks about this a lot is Sarah Esther Crisp, because she began to do tshuva in the big Santa Monica or Santa Barbara earthquake in 1995. There was a very big, their house, she has pictures of it,
I think
like
it's
what
in
happened to
the
their house, maybe in the valley.
Uh-huh.
It's already close to Santa Ana. No, Santa Ana's in the south, but it's like Santa Barbara. I think it was
Maybe it was
around there. I think it was centered in Santa Barbara, and it affected all the way down the valley.
San Fernando
Yeah,
Valley.
I found it, okay. And she said that was like her wake up call. She says she didn't understand it fully because she didn't even have a from context to put it into. Right? She's told you heard the story from her. She has it on Facebook. If you go look at her page, so every year on that date, she was mamish saved. She was like she feels that there was no way that she could come out alive out of how the house looked afterwards. But she was saved, and from then on, she took that as like the day that she was reborn in a certain sense. She understood the answer.
Yeah, there is more than that, because it's written that when there is an evil, something like head, like, I don't want to say president, evil head coming to a country, and the earth shakes and there is an earthquake. That's also
Said
a
it
sign
again.
that,
Did that happen when Obama came?
I don't want to say when.
I did see it
I don't want to say when.
In any case, the idea is that nature is oblivious; it doesn't care. But Hashem says, "But know that I do care. When I created nature, I created it in a certain way, so there's a hidden dimension to it. And so know that even ingrained into nature, as much as it looks like there's nothing here, it's all the same. There's no bias towards the good or towards the evil. I'm telling you that when I created it with the letter bet in order to teach you that there is a hidden bias inside. And the hidden bias will be revealed when you decide to bring blessing into reality. So how does he explain it here? He says, based on what we studied here, so emunah is like the verse. There's a verse in Isaiah that says, "He that has faith will not make haste." V'ma'amin lo yachish. That if you have faith, you have all the time in the world. You don't care. Faith can become an oblivious attitude towards redemption. And we heard a big Talmidei Chachamim who said, as much as they learned, they said, I don't care if Mashiach comes in 2,000 years, who cares? This is no, so what? Why? Because he has faith.
But you're not
They
supposed
only
to
have
think
faith,
that.
only Aleph, everything's the same, it's all the same, it doesn't matter. It'll happen now, it'll happen in 50, in 1,000,
But
in
you're supposed to
2,000.
think he's coming now.
Ken, so that's exactly the Bet of Bereshit. He says, no, there is a bias towards feeling that it has to be now. And so we'll see that bias is in the word that we just said, that the sages say is the bias. Which word? Hayom. Vayerev vayiboker yom echad. But there was one day. So that word yom, or as we'll see the word hayom, this day, the day, is the bias that a person has to have, that I can't wait 1,000 years because I'm biased towards the good. Meaning the good has to affect, it has to uncover the goodness in reality. It's not just a certain indifference towards reality if you don't start with the bit. In other words, if you don't think that there's some bias hidden inside reality, what do you think life is about? life is only about me doing good. It's only about me. The only struggle I have here, the race is only against myself. I'm only challenged by myself, period. So I can live as a hermit somewhere and just make sure that I don't do any averas. Or if I believe that there are mitzvahs between people to do, so I'll live in a place where everybody's like me and nobody will ever challenge me. It'll always be very, very easy. I don't have to change the rest of the world. The rest of the world doesn't matter. It could go burn for all I care. That's if you start the world with an aleph. It's like, oh, the world becomes cursed. So what if the world burns up? So it burns up. I don't care. As long as I'm winning my battle. What's my battle? My battle is to do good, because that's the only place that good means anything. In the moral sense. But nature? What does nature care? It doesn't know about anything. So whether I do a mitzvah, how that's going to affect, I don't know, the amount of clean water in the world, there's no connection. No connection at all. But since the world was created with a bet, which is bracha, so it's telling me that know that you have responsibilities. You're not just in a race against yourself. You're in a race to heal and fix the world as soon as possible. Because the world is waiting for it. There's something in it that's essentially biased towards the good. It wants to come to the good. Okay.
So what about the Anochim?
Oh. So now, let's say, one more thing about this, and then don't forget that question, because that's the next stage. The other thing is, who's ruling here? Does it matter that the guy, think about, you could have a religious person who says, I don't care that the prime minister here is frum or not frum. I only care about one thing, that he not get involved in our affairs. That's all I care. Just let me be autonomous. Whatever else you do, if you eat treif in state dinners, or you eat treif going out, or you mechal Shabbos, I don't care. What do I care? It's none of my business, and you're not. I'm not your business. So that feeling is the feeling that indeed the wicked can rule. Wickedness can rule, and it's all the same. It doesn't matter. That's the other side of it. It also has to do with sovereignty. Who's going to be sovereign? Is the good going to prevail, or is the evil going to prevail? So if you start with an aleph, it would be like saying, doesn't matter. It's all the same. Doesn't matter. As long as he leaves us alone.
So then it's a matter of interest.
Okay. What do you mean of interest?
It leaves me alone, it's my interest, so what do I care?
Okay. I don't care what everybody else does. So you see that the Rebbe's interest in the world and his interest in how other Jews was, it's not enough to be Jewish to get this. You have to learn this idea from Chassidus, that's what Chazal mean when they say Hashem didn't want to start the Torah with Aleph, because it would be a rule, because it would make nature, again, we're always stressing this, that there's two beginnings to the Torah. There's a beginning in Genesis, in 1:1, which is how nature is, and there's the beginning in Torah, which is how Aseret HaDibrot start, or Chodesh Hazeh Lachem, this month, okay, either one, but these are two different beginnings. There's nature and there's Torah.
What's the
So-
second word mean?
Sorry?
What's the word you said? The second one?
Chodesh Hazeh Lachem. I said Genesis 1:1 could be nature, and the other one is Torah.
Torah.
First commandment.
So, if you don't understand, again, sages say these things in very, very metaphoric language. Started the world with Aleph, started with a bet. You read the stuff, it's like weird. It's so weird. What are they trying to say?
From the time of the Rambam, he says in his book, he says, I can't even reveal to you the true secret of what they're trying to say. Because it's not that they think he created the world with an aleph. What are you talking about? All the letters came to him. It means something. So what does it mean? So the deep meaning of it is, again, is whether it's all equal. That's the Ahul, that's the Aleph. It's all, like the Tao. Everything is indifferent to whether it's good or bad, or whether there's a direction in the world. And again, to get this out of it, you have to think a lot. The sages say it. They say Aleph is Ahul and Bet is Baruch. You come and say, but Aleph could be any number of words that start with Aleph. Why did you choose Ahul? You could have chosen anything. Aluf, anything, Emunah, kinds of stuff. So why did you choose? Because I want to teach you, they say, I chose this on purpose because I want to teach you that if it starts with an Aleph, strangely enough, again, maybe in my thinking I would interpret it the other way around, that Bet is duality. And duality says that both sides are equal. It says, no, it says the sages, that's not what it means. The Bet is for Baruch, it's not for duality, it's not for there being two. It's not for there being equal. There are two. There is goodness and there is evil, but they're not equal. And if it would have started with the Aleph would have meant that all you see is indifferent. All you see is no bias towards the good. Everything is just as you see it. It's all happenstance. It's all completely probabilistic, statistical, and there's no bias in any direction. It's all random. So now the question becomes: so why do you start with the Torah with an Aleph? Say one more thing we'll say before we get to that. When I start with the Bet, I'm telling you there's something before. Right? I have to leave room for there being something before. In other words, since creation is what I see with my eyes, the fact that I start with the Bet, I'm saying there was some Aleph before creation. What was the Aleph before creation? So I would think maybe it's Hashem. But here what he's saying is the Aleph before creation is that everything is equal.
It's the source.
Good. That the source does see everything as equal. It's very strange. It's like unbelievable. You wouldn't think this. But that's what the sages are trying to say.
No, it should be
No. That there's that's emunah. It's a very good thing. You should be able to equalize. You should have equanimity, whether people say to you a good thing or a bad thing. It's all good. Everything's good. That comes before nature. In other words, if you want to connect to reality, first you have to go to this Aleph. And the way we're explaining it, you're right, this Aleph is outside of the world. You leave the confines of the world. You purge. You go out into, like Hashem took Avram, above the stars. Why above the stars? Because that's where you see the real Emunah. That's where Avram had brought himself to. So the description is Hashem took him above. He took him outside the world. There's something before the world. Bet is the world, and there's something before it. And if you want to heal, you have to learn how to go to that Aleph. But don't create worlds with that Aleph, because if you create worlds with that Aleph, they will be entirely indifferent to everything, to good and evil. They'll be just leave that for very particular needs, such as resetting your system. But don't try to create a world with that. Don't mistake that for the world. In other words, when you do this meditation on everything around me is Hashem, everything in me is Hashem, and nothing means anything to Hashem, it's all good, you really have to be non-judgmental. A person really has to reach a state where everything is okay.
Is that sweetening the Baha'u'llah?
Maybe, yeah, perhaps. But then you have to come down. And when you come down, know that it has to be blessing. It has to be bracha. And you have to bring down blessing. You can't remain in that non-judgmental state. And so we read a few weeks ago that he says that in this world, the moments of emunah, of ratzon, going out of the world, they're minor in amount, They're much less than the moments of coming back into the world and bringing blessing down. So you can't spend too much time there. But you can do it 3, 4, 5, 8 times a day if you want. But each time, just spend a minute on it. Just until you feel that you're free of the incredible burden of being in the world. And when you're there, be non-judgmental. There's nothing to judge you about. There's only one thing, just that I'm connected to Hashem, that's all. Just pure emunah. And Hashem is good, that's all. What does good mean? Everything is good. The Shoah is good. Everything is good there. There's nothing that's not good. Okay? That's what non-judgmental means. Even the worst evil is okay. But you can't live there. You can't live and build a world that way. I said, but you have to know how to go there. So then Reb Hillel
Maybe
asks,
that's why a lot of Jewish neshamas needed to go east after the Shoah.
Okay.
Because they needed to go to that
Okay.
place of the
Yeah.
olive
Nachon?
in order to handle the,
Could be. Could very well be.
otherwise you
Okay.
couldn't see the bracha.
So now you're
Yeah.
okay with your daughter being in India?
What?
Now you're okay with your daughter being in
My
India?
daughter's in
She
Israel.
needed to go.
So you can say that the young people that finish the army here and they go there, it's the same thing exactly.
My daughter took 5
Because
little
everybody's
kids
been
to India.
teaching them that what they're doing is oy vavoy. It's a terrible thing to be in the army, right? The leftists keep telling them that you're the worst people in the world. So they have to go there where everything's equal, everything's the same. Don't bother me. So now it says Rebbe Hillel, but what about Aleph of Anochi? So here we said that even where do we know why, if good and evil are equal, so where do we know that when everything is just Hashem, that Hashem is only good? It should be the opposite. If it's really non-judgmental, so when you come to that state, what should you say? Whether it's good or whether it's evil, doesn't matter.
But it does.
You should come to the word doesn't matter, not to the word it's all good. Because that's how you end up in the East.
What?
That when you come to this place of the Aleph, it's really non-judgmental. God is neither good, he's neither evil, he's neither. He doesn't care. He's indifferent. It doesn't mean anything. Right. So why is that avodah zarah? Because what you're saying is that in the end, Hashem is not a personality. He has no bias, and that's not true. He does have a bias, and for this you need the Aleph of Anochi.
I don't know, my daughter says so many friends die of terrorist attacks or cancer or I don't know, whatever, wherever it took her. She's in India with her whole family now. 5 kids.
She couldn't find it here.
She couldn't figure it out.
So the Aleph of Anochi is a higher Aleph than the Aleph of Arul that would have been if the world would have been created with the Aleph. It's a different Aleph. And if you remember what we said, that the Aleph of Anochi is really about Hashem concentrating himself. It's a different type. It's the Aleph in the sense of oneness that is coming to say, right, that there's the tzimtzum of creation and there's the tzimtzum of giving the Torah. Remember that those
Yeah,
2 or 3 shurim that we had?
We just talked about it.
So the Aleph of creating the world was to conceal Hashem. So that it looks like the world has no bias. But the Aleph of Anochi, of giving the Torah, was to reveal Hashem. That even in the letters of the Torah, which are finite, I can pick it up and throw it at you. So even in something that's finite, Hashem can instill the infinite. You can put it in.
Is that the beginning of
Right.
the
Right. So it's even more. It's higher even than the kav. It's saying that the kav comes out, bracha comes out as it does, because Hashem Himself has a bias. So now let's say this in terms of human nature. In terms of human nature, when you're a child,
So you don't know that there's a difference between vanilla and chocolate. You want both. You want equal portions. Yeah. When you're a child, what do you want? You only care is that it's sweet. It doesn't matter if it's this taste or that taste. You don't know the difference between tastes. And then as you grow up, you mature, and slowly you begin to see the, wait a minute, I prefer one to the other. You give me both, I prefer one and not the other. Sometimes I want both, a mixture. But if you really ask me which one I prefer, it's either this one or that one. And then I begin to think, why do I prefer this one and not that one? And the answer is I don't know. But I see that I do prefer it. So these are like the stages that, and at first glance, reality is unbiased. It's all the same, good or evil, it's all the same. When you grow up, you understand that, wait a minute, good is better than evil. At least I think it's good is better than evil. But who said that nature knows that? Is vanilla really better than chocolate? Is there really something inherently better about it? The other guy likes it the other way around.
Les goûts et les couleurs.
So what's going on? At some point you realize that, wait, this is not coming from nature. It's coming from me. That I have this preference. And that nature is only helping me reveal my preference. So when it comes to vanilla and chocolate, really there is no difference, it doesn't matter. But with good and evil, the fact that I'm drawn towards the good is not because nature taught me that good is better, because I can do whatever I want and nature doesn't care. But I begin to understand that I'm drawn towards it. So I asked, why am I drawn towards it? What makes me prefer this side and not the other side? So I come to the understanding that my core existence is like that. There's no reason for it, as much as I look for it. That I have a bad experience with chocolate once, that it was spoiled, that I have a good experience with vanilla once. As much as I look for it, I can't find anything. So where did it come from? So my very essence prefers this one and not that one.
It's in our DNA.
Okay, I've said it. It's another way of saying it.
Some people.
Wouldn't that come from
Okay, but it's already Etzim. It's already how Hashem is. So in Hashem also, at the beginning it looks to you like He told me to prefer good over evil. He told me to do this. And slowly I look at it and see that no, nature, meaning, what do you mean He told me? That nature prefers it. I grow up and I see that there's no, they're both good, it's fine. I grow up some more and I see that I have a preference for the good rather than the evil. And I begin to ask, where is it from? It comes from the essence. So the same thing, it's, at some point when you receive the Torah, you understand the Torah can't come right away, because you have to first of all understand that they're equal. And that's what happened. This is called 2,000 years of Tohu. Tohu means that you can't tell the difference. Until Avram begins to bring a ray of light in, and you see that Hashem is drawn to that ray of light. He's drawn to Avram. So what's going on? So Hashem is playing favorites? He's not playing favorites. Avram is revealing what is in Hashem's essence. He's revealing the Aleph before the Aleph of Elul. That's the Anochi. And Hashem revealed it to him. He said, Anochi magen lechaschalcha b'mod. I am holding, I'm keeping your reward. It's very great. Anochi. The same Anochi as Anochi Hashem Elokecha. It's the exact same word. And it's saying the reward is because I, Hashem, am biased. I'm biased towards the good.
Anochi is stronger than Ani.
Okay.
And some of our messages, they don't know the difference between evil and they don't.
Okay. Because they're really, really, really stuck in the Aleph of Elul. And there's no way, you can't live that way. So you have to raise them higher. So in a certain sense, you have to give them examples that you prefer chocolate to vanilla for whatever reason. If you begin to see that in some things you prefer one and not the other, there's a chance that you might begin to uncover that there's a difference between doing good and, in a certain sense, a sociopath is somebody who can't tell the difference. Who thinks that the only thing is me getting ahead. Nature doesn't care, the world doesn't care, it's all the same.
But then you say there's a wine that I like and a wine that I don't like. Why? If it's all the same, why do you prefer this and not prefer that? Maybe there's a maybe.
Because it keeps me around, because sweet, I mean,
So, in the end, it's an inability to mature. All children are sociopaths, right? We said you grow out of it.
missing, like,
Good.
there's no
Because you never become biased. You have to become biased. The left wants everything to be equal all the time. They're crazy. Because it's completely immature. To say everybody's equal is immature. Because I'm more attached to my family members than I'm attached to other people, by nature. So you have to have this development into the bed to understand that there's a preference between the two. The bracha is better than klala. So this whole thing is very important, because otherwise there's no end to darkness. There simply won't be any end to darkness, because they're both equal. Light and dark are equal. So there has to be a preference. So the emunah is necessary, because without that you can't reset. You can't accept reality. On the other hand, those are the minuscule amount of moments that you spend in life. And the majority of your moments should be spent in looking for what the preference is. And my preference is bitachon. Bitachon says that you bring blessing down. And then he has this beautiful sort of gematria. And it's in not the page that was printed today, but the page that was printed last time. But anyway, it says betach, betet chet, which is the root of bitachon, is the three words bitachon tov chaim. Bracha tov chaim. That these are what you bring down. You have to have trust and confidence in order to bring goodness into reality. That's the line. That's the ray of light that comes out of the circle. So the circle of Sovev is the emunah. And the line that comes down, that's the bitachon. And the line that comes down is the opposite of everything being equal. It's making a declaration. I prefer this and not that. I have this mission and not that mission. By the way, I was dealing with somebody last week, and I suddenly realized that it's very, at least I haven't stressed it enough. We said the story once. There was some wealthy person who came to the Alter Rebbe, and suddenly he learned that he had lost all his possessions, and he fell unconscious. And he couldn't wake him up, no matter what happened. So eventually the Alter Rebbe whispered in his ear that it's not true. And so he woke up. And then he came to the Alter Rebbe to ask him what had happened. So he said to him, I knew that it wasn't true, because if you can't wake up from this, it's such a tremendous blow. Hashem doesn't put you in that position. So I knew that it couldn't be, and it turned out that it wasn't true.
Really?
But
Hashem couldn't put him in that position.
he would die.
You can't wake up now.
If he dies, he dies. Said. But he can't be in a state where he can't bear it. I don't know if this is something that can be tried in some way on people who are in a coma.
Oh, wow.
Maybe try it. I don't know what else would work. But to whisper in their ear, it's not true. I don't know what they had in their head.
Interesting.
I don't know.
Lydia Petz, who was in Torah Nefesh, she
Yeah,
lost
Lydia.
her son, I don't know if you know, from cancer, and I heard that at the Shiva, she was so strong and full of chizuk, and people asked why, and she said, like Sarah, why did Sarah Mena actually die
When she heard that,
she heard, because
She believed it.
hadn't died, yeah.
she believed it
She didn't
completely.
have the feeling, he actually hadn't. She thought that when it actually happened, Hashem gives you the koach. And that's how I was able to give her the koach, Lydia. Because Hashem gave her the koach to manage it, because it was actually what happened.
So later,
Yeah.
he came to the Alter Rebbe and he asked him, why did this happen to me then?
If it's not true, then why did this whole
Yes.
thing happen? So the Alter Rebbe said, because you keep thinking, what do I need to do? Instead of thinking, what am I needed for? The difference between them is the difference between shlichus that comes out of the ayin or shlichus that doesn't come out of the ayin. Whether it comes from the emunah, whether the bitachon has to come out of the emunah. If you don't have emunah, then what do you feel? You only have bitachon. Most people in the world, they only have bitachon. They don't have emunah. What I mean to say is that they don't feel that the substrate on which I'm standing is my nothingness. They feel that I'm a given, and now the question is only what am I going to do? And so they're starting from the kav and down. They never see the circle around the kav. They never see that before you can begin, you have to be nothingness. Everything has to be equal, even you. Whether you're here or not here, it's all the same. So they're living off the feeling, what do I need to do? The I comes before the need. But the right way to look at it is, what am I needed for? The I comes after the need. Because the kav begins to come out, and then it creates my I, my being. Not the other way around. It's not by being pulls the I out. I have to start from the emunah because my foundation has to be one that it doesn't matter. I don't exist here. Whether I'm here or not here, it doesn't matter at all. So that's what the Alter Rebbe said to him. If you would feel that Hashem gave you the money not because you need to do something, but He gave you the money to make you. You don't exist without it. You yourself, it doesn't matter to you at all. So, if Hashem took the money away, so what? So no problem. There's a different thing He might need me for. He doesn't need me for that anymore. Because I don't exist before the money. The money didn't come to fulfill my needs. Even if they're very noble needs and very good, and I want to do good things with it and so on. Says my existence doesn't matter. It's in the state of I exist. It doesn't matter. Now that Hashem wants me to exist, He gave me some shlichus. The shlichus makes me tomorrow the shlichus ends. So either He'll give me a new one or He won't give me a new one. But I'm nothing less. Because there was nothing more before. Before I received the shlichus. I remain. Whether I do this, it doesn't matter. Whatever he wants me to do. So in that sense, every Hasidic Rebbe is greater than the biggest posek. Why? Because a Hasidic Rebbe starts from the ayin. He starts from that I'm nothing. The Alter Rebbe, when he wrote the Shulchan Aruch, he starts from the place I'm nothing. I have a shlichus now to write a Shulchan Aruch, I'll write a Shulchan Aruch. But a posek usually starts from the other way around. Again, it's not negative, but it just says that I start from the needs. Okay? There's this I here. I know so much, and look at what people need. They need me to give a psak. But the other way around is to look at that there's a psak need, and therefore I exist. And I don't exist, and therefore I'm given a shlichus to do a psak. I'm given a shlichus to be rich. The shlichus is the main thing, and I exist as a result of it. So that's why you have to have the emunah first. If you have the emunah first, so the kav that comes down is coming out of the circle, out of the great circle. And so the feeling is always one of whether I have this shlichus to do or that shlichus to do, it doesn't matter. I'm not more or less because of the shlichus, because I myself am nothing. The shlichus is great. Oh, it's very nice that I got a big shlichus. It's not. Okay.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
I hope I was able to express this last part because I really want to try to write it
Yes,
because it's not.
definitely.
It's not